We told you in the open about Thursday's show, in which we noted some pretty remarkable and we thought significant reports from NPR, the state's funded broadcaster that really is the mouthpiece of the neoliberal establishment. So first, NPR complained about a trans person being evicted without mentioning that this very same person had shot a police officer in the head, because the trans community can do no wrong even when they shoot cops. And then, at the same time they were calling for disarming you, NPR told trans people to hurry up and formed armed militias. Watch. Here's that same National Public Radio, state media, controlled by the Biden administration, encouraging people to go to the gun store immediately. But not all people, just trans people. Guns are bad, except in the hands of trans people. Wow. Here's more.
Groups like Rainbow Reload exist around the country, often called pink pistol clubs. It's a place for experts and the gun curious to practice and improve shooting. But this goes beyond hobby. There's a practical goal here, to prepare and protect themselves.
If the world is dangerous, then you have to be dangerous back. And that very much has pushed me into where I am now.
So that segment aired Thursday night, and trans groups across the country made fun of it, mocked it. The Rainbow Youth Project said that we are, quote, afraid gun-toting trans people will start political violence. Well, we were concerned about that. And for good reason, it turns out. Jason Rantz joined us last week for that segment. He joins us again now. Jason, this is kind of the last trend you want to be right about, but it was obvious, it seemed.
It is. When you tell people they're targets, they're going to act like targets. Now, most people will not turn to violence themselves, right? They'll maybe unnecessarily live in fear. They will responsibly arm themselves, and that's it. Nothing happens. But there will always be the threat of a small percentage of people who will act out unreasonably or destructively. And perhaps that's what we ended up seeing this week.
When you tell people they're a target, they'll act like a target. They will either live in fear or they'll act out. I think that's absolutely right. And that goes for any group, by the way. I would feel that way. Why wouldn't I? So what would be the point in telling people that? Like, that's so obvious. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons. Number one, it does sometimes feel intentional, like you are trying to ratchet up all of those feelings. They started to do this with Trump supporters, where they were effectively in the media trying to get them to act out violently so they can go out and say, hey, see, right-wingers are violent. In this case, when you have someone who is pursuing a political agenda, I don't necessarily know if they're always intentional in doing this. And look, I'll be good faith in this. I don't think everyone is intentionally trying to instill this violence, but the end result is still the same, whether that's intent or not. And, you know, it fits into the oppressor-oppressed narrative that the left wing likes to push. And even if it could end up resulting in something like this, they seem to be okay with it or justify it because the end goal, they believe, is something that we need to get to, which is unfettered access to gender-affirming care regardless of the age of the individual. And I think that ultimately that's dangerous. And to your point, it's not just about trans people. It's literally any group. When you tell them they're a target of a threat that doesn't actually exist, you cannot always determine how they're going to react.
That's exactly right. And in this case, there's no evidence that that threat is real, as you know and as you've reported. Jason Rantz, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker. Appreciate it.